Hello, this is Wojciech Przybylski from C-Aviation.net, and this is another episode of FS 2020 Countdown. Today is airports. What airports will we get in FS 2020? And I mean the handcraft ones, not the 30,000 airports in total in the flight sim, but those 30, 35 or 40 depending on the edition that you bought, that you will get in, let's call it premium quality. Basically, what do you have in the new flight sim? It's a very interesting selection of airports scattered around the world, and this is something that I like from the first moment I saw the list, and then when I first imagined it, then converted into a map, that you have something covering the whole world. You have airports in the US, of course. They have most of the airports in the world, so it would be difficult to understand if they haven't done so many in the States. But we have Canada, we have Latin America, we have a lot in Europe, but we have also some airports in Africa, three of them actually. One in the Middle East, two in Central Asia, and four in Asia Pacific region. So wherever you want to fly, you will have one of those airports in some radius around you, and that's very good. That's something that I really, really like. On the map that you see, I divided the list into 4 categories. So you have standard edition, major international airports. Then you have standard edition, smaller international airports and regional airports. And I will explain the differences and the classification in a moment. Then you have standard edition, small airports and airstrips. And then you have deluxe and premium editions, color-coded. Deluxe are gray and premium are yellow. And these are all major international airports. Maybe I will explain the classification first, so then we don't get into the depths why one or another airport is classified as major international or smaller international and regional. When I thought about major international airports, I thought about the airports with the highest volume of traffic and the biggest capacity. Basically, if you can land 747 without any trouble, without any special arrangements, then the airport is classified as a major international airport. If you can fit a 737 or something like that, then the airport goes to the small international airport category. If you can't fit a 737, or if the airport just don't get such traffic regularly, then it goes to small airports and airstrips. To show you the example of such airport, it's Sedona, for example. In the States, it's it's Billy Bishop Airport in Toronto. Billy Bishop Airport in Toronto was classified as a regional airport because you have some Dash 8 aircraft operating from this airport regularly. So there is some airline traffic, and in Sedona, not so much. So quite a similar airports with similar runway, but two different classification. But I wasn't sure about this. It's not a very strict classification. It's more a help in judging what can we expect from the sim and what exactly will be our possibilities in flying. At first, I will hide all the smaller airports, and let's check what the network of our connections between the major international airports will be if we fly a big airliner or a big transport plane. So just take a look on the map. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 airports in the US, one in Southern America, it's Rio de Janeiro. We have 5 in Europe, including Heathrow and Frankfurt and Amsterdam. We have 3 in Africa, 1 in Middle East, it's Dubai, 1 in Japan, and 1 in Australia. Let's see exactly which airports these are, and I will start with Standard Edition. So if you pay the lowest price, or if you get Xbox Game Pass subscription, you will get these airports. It's Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, 29th busiest airport in the world. Actually, of the 50 busiest airports in the world, you have 15. Of 30 busiest, 13. Of 20 busiest, 9. So you have quite a lot of the biggest airports in the world already in the sim. Well, depending on which edition you buy, some of these very big, very busy airports are hidden in deluxe and premium, but basically you can get them for not that high price and on day one before any third-party developers get involved with them and publish them. So the first airport is Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. Then you have Los Angeles International Airport, LAX. A beautiful, beautiful airport, if we can judge from the videos that Microsoft provided. JFK, New York's most important and largest airport. Florida, Orlando. I think they have Disneyland or Disney World there in Florida. Let's go to the Brazil. We have Rio de Janeiro. And in Europe, Paris, Charles de Gaulle, Roissy Airport. So this beautiful, this grand airport in France, and on day one you have it in a quality that they showed in several videos, and we'll do some comparisons at the end of this video. And I think that this quality almost matches some payware add-ons that I checked. Entebbe Airport in Uganda. Entebbe Airport for me is very special because it's one of my favorite airports in Africa. I got involved in flying around Africa in the Flight Simulator X. It was years ago, and there were some, I think there were 2 freeware sceneries for Entebbe. They were for 2012, 13 or 14 quite nice, and I really enjoyed flying over Lake Victoria, over Kenya, Tanzania, over all of these countries. I did some flights to the DRC and to Congo. So all these countries in this region. I simulated some United Nations flights in C-130 or L-100, as it's called in civilian life. I think it was Beni where I was flying. So Entebbe was one of one of the hubs I used, and it brings good memories of flight simulator flying. And I'm really happy that this airport will be developed by Microsoft, and that it will open this region for both flight simmers and the developers, because there was a problem with Africa, especially Central Africa. Not all the developers are willing to take the effort of doing a scenery that is actually disconnected from the world. It's quite a long flight from Europe, where we have a lot of sceneries, to Uganda, and I hope that placing several airports in the strategic locations will enable developers to develop something for these regions. For example, we had in FSX and Prepared, we had Kilimanjaro Airport in Tanzania. So hopefully it will be brought to this new flight simulator, and hopefully we will get this connection from Entebbe to Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. Then hopefully we will get some other airports in the region. Maybe someone will recognize the potential of doing some smaller scenarios of airstrips or smaller regional airports in DRC, in Sudan, and maybe this place will also be developed in the sim. Okay, let's stop with Entebbe, or maybe not. There is one more story. Entebbe. You may know Entebbe from history. There was a famous Israeli raid on Entebbe airport. I think it was in 1970s, when an Air France passenger jet was hijacked by terrorists and landed in Entebbe. Some passengers were released at once, but others, mostly Israelis, were kept in Entebbe airport terminal with unofficial, or yes, we can say that it was an unofficial support of dictator of Uganda, of Idi Amin. And Israeli military did a spectacular job flying 3 or 4 C-130s from Israel over the Red Sea, over parts of Africa, mostly below the radar range, so on very low altitude, and they landed in Entebbe at night, and they captured the terminal where the hostages were kept, and with very, very small, absolutely minimal losses, they were able to withdraw from Entebbe, despite all the fuss they made while landing several transport aircraft, then fighting against terrorists, then escaping, and then they landed in Kenya with some diplomatic problems, of course, but successfully and safely. So that's what I know also about Entebbe. Another airports in standard edition, and I promise I won't be bothering you with such long stories about airports. It's Haneda in Tokyo, Japan, 5th busiest airport by passenger traffic. And the last major airport in standard edition, Sydney, Australia, 49th busiest airport by passenger traffic. Okay, this is what you get in standard edition. This is how the world looks if you choose the standard edition. You have something in the States, something in South America, South, something in Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia. Very nice, even spread all over the world. If you buy additionally deluxe edition, you will get Chicago O'Hare Airport. You will get 2 additional airports in Europe. It's Madrid and Amsterdam. I love this airport. I fly there so often in P3D that I really enjoyed the news that Amsterdam will be released with Flight Simulator 2020. It's a great hub, great connections, great distances. That's something that's very important for me in the Flight Simulator. You can really reach a lot of airports in Europe from Amsterdam in 1 hour or in 50 minutes. So very good place to start some smaller, shorter flights. You get Cairo in Egypt, Cape Town in South Africa. And now the connection network develops even more, and I really like the shape it gets, because we have some nice connections from Europe to Africa, to Cairo, if you prefer shorter flights, or to Entebbe, if you prefer something longer. For those who want to fly 747 and who have a lot of time, you will have also flights to South Africa. You have also this inter-African flights. You have some flights, very long range, from Cairo to Japan, or from Japan to Europe. Of course, all the transatlantic flights, they are here. You can do them. You can fly to the coast, to New York. You can fly down the coast to Orlando. You can even try crossing Pacific if you wish, if that's something that that you like. So you have Japan, you have Seattle, you have LAX. Pay a bit more and you get 2 more airports in the States. It's San Francisco, very important airport for me also. Once again, I have this airport in my P3D for a long time. I think I had it in FSX from Flightbeam. There's Denver. My last purchase of the scenery for P3D, it was Denver by Flightbeam. Very interesting hub almost in the middle of the state. So a lot of good connections, to some of them east, some of them west. Good connections to some smaller airports that I have. Hopefully, we will have them also in this new flight simulator, with Orbex already declaring their support and their work. I hope they will appear quite soon. Heathrow, the biggest airport in the UK, one of the biggest or the biggest in Europe. Frankfurt, Germany. Once again, one of the major European hubs. And Dubai in Emirates. Great connection between the Europe and Asia. So if you don't have 8, 10 or 12 hours for this very, very long flights from Europe to East Asia, you can choose some flights to Dubai, and then from Dubai to Japan, or later when they get these airports from third-party developers to Thailand or India or China. What I'm actually missing here is something in China, India, and Russia. I think that China was the worst treated airport in the FSX days. it didn't change a lot in prepared, so we have only a couple of airports in this region by default, and this is a growing aviation market, and they have all these beautiful grand airports. So I'd really like to see Shanghai or Beijing or maybe somewhere something in India or in Russia, something that would fill this space that we have here. Okay, but even with this gap here, the network that they created with Premium Edition is very nice. And yesterday I told you that I wouldn't buy Premium Edition if it was for the planes they provide. No, definitely not. But I actually did buy Premium Edition for the major airports that they offer in Deluxe and Premium. And for this network and possibilities that it will give me for not that high a price. Okay, let's jump to smaller airports. We have Aspen, skiing resort in the States. A nice location, a very nice, difficult instrument approaches. Very nice views if you fly VFR around Aspen. I think that's a great choice of airport. We have Aspen from Aerosoft for P3D, and I enjoyed flying there. So the first airport on the list, and already something that I feel is very interesting. Second on my list, Microsoft's list is a bit different. It's Toronto. Billy Bishop Toronto City Airport. This funny little thing with two runways, something probably abandoned some time ago here. A small one. We can see some, these are probably Dash 8s. Nothing larger operates from here. But what I enjoy thinking about this airport is the panorama of the city of Toronto on the right side if you come from the east. So I think the view will be spectacular. And I'm pretty sure that I've watched some videos on YouTube of people doing approaches to this airport. So one of the more scenic city airports in the world. Okay, now we are in Tegucigalpa in Honduras. Smaller airport located in the middle of the city, surrounded by buildings. This also will be an interesting experience to land here, especially to land from northern direction and to do a low approach over this quite a big city. Mariscal Sucre International Airport, just next to Quito in Ecuador. Mountainous airport, quite a large. I think we have 4 kilometers of runway here, mostly due to the altitude. It's located at high altitude, so you get large runway and very, very interesting approaches from both directions. Some complicated IFR procedures here. Madeira. I think I don't have to introduce this airport. A very special airport because of the way they constructed this runway is actually suspended over a cliff. So Once again, interesting airport, and once again, interesting approach. I remember there is the approach to runway. What's the number here? To number 5 runway, this approach requires a tight turn here somewhere next to this cape. So with this and do this turn, descending, and line up with the runway and land. Very interesting approach. Very well. Some YouTube videos will call it dangerous approach. Another airport known from dangerous approach lists, Gibraltar. The airport located in this narrowest part of the peninsula, just by the Rock of Gibraltar. The airport is crossed by Winston Churchill Avenue, by the road connecting Gibraltar to Spain. The traffic stops when aircraft lands or takes off. So quite a spectacular airport with this runway extending into the sea and nice surroundings. Donegal in Ireland. I hope I pronounced it correctly. I have no idea how the Irish pronounce it. A small airport in Ireland on the Atlantic coast. One of the few here that I don't find in any way spectacular. And this is something special with this choice of airports. You have either one of the largest airports. As I said, of the 50 largest airports, you have 15 in the sim. Or the airports are, for some reason, popular, spectacular, often photographed, often videographed. So you will see some videos from each of these airports on the internet. And they chose exactly them. So I think this is something very good marketing-wise. They will get to these people who are interested in all those special places and who will find all these videos that people flying in the sim will publish on the YouTube, will populate the network with great marketing material. Okay, what's next? Innsbruck in Austria. Again, one of these airports that do not require introduction. One of the most popular already in the flight sim market. On the flight sim market, we have a beautiful Innsbruck from OBEX for both P3D and X-Plane. We have at least one or two other very nice sceneries of Innsbruck for those simulators. Again, a very interesting IFR approach. You descend along this narrow valley between two mountain ranges. Nice place for IFR flights with some challenges in this approach, especially if you go from here, from Rattenburg, something like that, VOR, and then you descend along the ILS, and then you try to this circling approach to runway 08. So the circling approach would be the most challenging here. And if we speak about challenging approaches, we have Paro in Bhutan, in Asia. Just look at the surroundings and imagine this approach. You fly some Airbus A320 yes, some Airbuses A320 approach this airport. They fly from India to Paro, and the aircraft will go along this narrow valley following the river, if I remember correctly. So beautiful place, beautiful approach, and if you are not sure when Bhutan is, it's here. Sorry for the Polish language map. I didn't notice earlier that my browser shows Polish language. And the last airport, Queenstown, New Zealand. One more interesting and often videographed approaches and airports. Nice airport in the southern part of New Zealand. As I said before, I like the choice. These are, for one reason or another, special airports, and they chose to make exactly those, not some other, maybe easier to render. Okay, now the last selection I did, small airports or airstrips. I don't think we have Google photos for this one. Yes, the resolution is, well, there's no resolution. It's a very low res image, but Nanwalek, I think, I have no idea how to pronounce this these native names. So we have this airstrip in Alaska. We have Stewart Airport in Canada. Again, one of the sceneries that I have from Orbex in P3D. I had it back in FSX years. One of my favorite airports with this route that you can fly over the Portland Canal. A very scenic flight, very difficult airport with the runway located in a very narrow valley. So I recommend doing straight-in approaches. But if you need, you can do a tight pattern here. So it's doable, but most likely you will choose a longer straight-in approach to this small runway. Look, you have this tiny strip of asphalt and two aprons here and here. What's next? Sedona in the States. If you want to fly around Monument Valley, if you want to see all these magnificent rock structures, you will go here. Oh, there's no photo, unfortunately. So another airport very good for scenic flights in a small aircraft. Telluride Regional Airport. Yeah, if you wonder what made me decide whether an airport goes into smaller international and regional or smaller airports and airstrips, it's mostly the size of the aircraft it can accommodate. Billy Bishop Toronto Airport went into regional because there are several stands for Dash 8, and here you can accommodate maybe one or two Dash 8s, and it's much less organized. So Telluride, a very nice, I think 10th in size skiing resort in the United States. Once again, very nice IFR approach, very nice scenic area for VFR flights. Sirena Airstrip, which looks like this. I love airstrips like this in the flight sim. I like I like bush flying. I like bush pilot stories. I read several books on flying in Alaska and Africa. So the thing that we already have this airport in the sim and it's from day one, it may be very encouraging for developers to do more such places. Gustav III Airport in São Barthélemy. Once again, and I know I'm repeating myself, but that's the thing with these airports. It's a very popular airport on all the dangerous airports lists, on all most challenging approaches list. If you go, if you approach runway 10, if you fly from this direction, you go over this small roundabout, and then you need to descend steeply to land on runway 10, which is much lower than the roundabout that is here. So the aircraft dives like this and gets down to the runway. Close by, it's Sabah Airport, one of the smallest airports, one of the shortest runways in the world. If I remember correctly, 300 meters only, paved, good condition, a small apron right here. Well, there are not many other ways of getting to Sabah Island. We are in Dutch Antilles. And this region, with the third airport that is not of the same quality, where is it? Oh, here. In São Martin. There's a very nice scenery from Flight Tampa for prepared, and I hope that it will appear soon in Flight Sim 2020. And now we're in Peru. It's a Spanish pronunciation. I won't even try pronouncing it, but it's again one of the most popular, difficult, dangerous, hard approaches in the world. I remember this valley from at least 3 or 4 videos I've seen from this region. So you get this narrow airstrip, not much in terms of infrastructure around the airport. Well, that's easy to do in the scenery. You just don't have to do a lot. You have some cafeteria. That's all. And you have a great challenge to fly in your flight sim. We have 3 more to go. Courchevel in France. Steep descending runway in this mountainous airport. So you land up the mountain and you go down to take off. It's one way in, one way out. And the same thing in Nepal. Tenzing Hillary Airport, known by the names of 2 first men who climbed Mount Everest, and that's the airport that serves most of these expeditions which try to climb Mount Everest from Nepalese side. Tenzing was Nepalese Sherpa who worked on Mount Everest. He was the most experienced Sherpa of that time and probably the most experienced man in the world in terms of climbing Mount Everest. Hillary was a New Zealander who was the first man to achieve this success to summit on the Mount Everest. Again, steep, angled runway. You land into the mountain. There's a steep rock above the airport, and you take off going down the runway to get some more speed. Very interesting airport, several sceneries for P3D and X-Plane. Two of them from Aerosoft, very nice. One of them released years ago, like 10 or 12 years ago. Another one just recently released, some new rendition, new buildings, new models. And the last thing, yes, that's an airport or an airstrip. Bugalaga airstrip in Indonesia on New Guinea island. And that's what you get, some small huts around the runway, airstrip, the main road of the village. There are more like this in the vicinity, so planes are, well, just look at this map. Planes are a very popular means of transport in this region. You have mountains, quite high, you have jungle, and you have a very difficult climate that doesn't make easy, that doesn't make traveling easy here. Okay, that's everything we have. So let's zoom out and let's check where the airports are. I like everything that I described with one tiny detail that I don't like that much. The tiny detail is that the smaller airports are what I called orphaned, because take a look at this Costa Rican airport, Sirena Strip. It's a great airport for a short flight with Piper Cup. Well, no, not Piper Cup, X-Cup from Cup Crafters or Cessna 172, Cessna Grand Caravan. Maybe even I would have to check the runway length, but maybe even a Kinker. But you don't have anything, any airport to fly from. Tegucigalpa in Honduras, two countries away. It's a bit far. I would love airports like this to have some accompanying airport to make these connecting flights. Maybe if there were 3 airports next to each other, it would be a place where people would enjoy flying around. The same thing happens here in Indonesia. We have this airstrip, and it's empty here. You will have to go to some default, and now I mean totally default airport nearby. Start from there and go to Bugalaga. Also, with both these airports here in Himalayas, you have Tenzing Hillary Airport. Kathmandu would be a great starting point for these flights. Actually, it is in the real world. And for Paro in Bhutan, you really need something to fly to Paro from. And what we have, Tokyo or Frankfurt, it just doesn't cut it. So we have a really great network of connections for airliners. We have in some places, like Europe, a great network of airports for any plane you wish, because you can take a, let's say, a TBM or a Kinker and start from Frankfurt and go to Innsbruck, Paris, Amsterdam, even London. Well, maybe TBM on Heathrow or Charles de Gaulle airport in Paris is a bit much, but it's doable. And they really appear there. And you can visit Courchevel flying from Innsbruck. This is what I mean by some connecting flights. You have two nice sceneries and you have one connection. Add another airport and you have three connections. But get four airports, like here, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 connections. If you add one more with Amsterdam, the number of connections grows, and with each airport, the number of connections grows by the larger number. So the more airports we have in one region, like this, it's the better for the development of flight simulator and for the community. I like what I see here. This is what I think that should have been done. So we have three major hubs like Denver, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. Then we have Aspen and Sedona and Telluride. You can take a King Air and you can visit each of these airports one by one. You can fly a TBM 930 from Denver to Aspen or from Denver to Telluride. You can take this plane from Telluride to Sedona to San Francisco. You see what I mean? You have all these possibilities. You don't have them here. You don't have them in South America. Unless you fly a 737 or what they give us, A320neo, which actually connects only these two airports. These two are disconnected. But this is just a minor detail, and the basic thing here is that we have a beautiful network of airports all around the world. And this tiny detail that I mentioned that makes me a bit sad about the network, especially about these small airports. It's easily repairable by third-party developers. So we will have all these third-party airports, and I hope that developers will notice these small airports and will think along these lines, along the line of, well, let's do a location that would be a good connecting point for this because we can play with this. So I hope it will work like this. And now let's see how these airports actually look like. Look at this amount of details and equipment for luggage service, for boarding or catering service for the aircraft. We would need to buy something like GSX for P3D or install a freeware add-on, but still we had to do something. And here you get all these details with the simulator on day one, hopefully. Okay, that's something that in P3D you needed a paper add-on for. That's interesting. Take a look at these airports, some of them. They are not listed on the map I provided you with. So there is a chance that there are some airports in development that will be released later, or there are some airports there that are in some kind of semi-detailed state. They are not on the level of the airports I showed you, but they are better than what we can expect from the normal default airports that will probably be okay in terms of runways, taxiways, aprons, but the buildings will be much different from what we can see in the real world data and photos. Okay, that's almost all for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening about the airports that will be available in the future Flight Simulator 2020 that will be released on August 18th. And I hope you will come back for another video tomorrow at 8 a.m. Central European Time, GMT plus GMT plus 2. So please adjust to your time zone. Yeah. Sorry, it's getting a bit late here where I produce this video, so I will just ask if you liked it. Give me a thumbs up. If you didn't yet, please subscribe, hit that red button. If you want to have notification when I publish video or when I do a live flight, click on this small bell that will give you all the notifications. And comment, please introduce yourself. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you're into in the flight simulations. Tell me what you like, what you would like to see, what would you like to hear. That's all for today. See you tomorrow. Bye.